Hey guys, welcome to a live show, episode, whatever you want to call it. I have the YouTube channel going and the Instagram channel going. It has taken me a bit of the afternoon to set this up, and I'm going to kind of take you back to the roots of the channel. And there are a ton of Archtops in the background here. There are at least 25 that literally mean nothing to me. What that means is if someone were to get a hold of me and say, hey, I want one of your Archtops, how am I going to get one? I have at least 25 that are ready to go to modify or to do what we want to do if we work something out. But this is not a sales pitch. What prompted me to do this is I think I started posting videos about 2016, 2017. And back then, what you were seeing me do, I have to be really careful here. There's dominoes waiting to happen here. If you can look here, I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to be bobbing and weaving and getting in and out of here, but there's a bunch of them here. There's more down there. I have Chick-fil-A Teal Pointer Junior around here, but the first videos you saw me post were about basically Camacho boxes with good necks, good pickups. And I'm going to try to give you a couple links if you haven't seen this stuff before. But this is Margaret Garrett's guitar from Mr. Airplane Man. She signed it. She actually recorded an album with it. She tells the story of my daughter Tammy with this guitar. I'm going to give you a link right up there right about now. New angle to get used to. You Instagram people are going to be odd man out on this, but I wanted to make my guitars durable. They open up. They have piezos, typically 2 pickups, 1 coil, 1 piezo. Good tuners, all this kind of stuff. And so this is basically how I started. Now, as I went along, I started doing Archtops. And we're going to talk a little bit about the term junk pile, what it means. But this is one of the first Archtops that I junk piled up, meaning it come in stripped down. It was a husk. It was sitting in a window, had some cracks, breaks, and then I just did what I do with it. So I'm new at this. It's asking me questions. Okay, good. There we go. But anyway, then you saw this kind of stuff, and somebody that I ran into that actually looked me up because they were headed down the road and they had a resonator that they need to fix. And they told me that somebody said I'd abandoned the cigar box guitar world. Well, look, when you do 200 videos on cigar box guitars, you pretty much covered it. And it was a big fad, just like maybe mandolins were between 1910 and 1920. But you saw a lot of this. Now, the crux of this program is going to be about guitars like this, catalog guitars, and what it takes to buy them, build them, make them durable, and especially if you intend on trying to do it for money to make it worth your while. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Then you started seeing me go into pre-built bodies and necks, and then these are artist guitars. This one, my daughter Tammy would sign them. She signed the Texas Junk Pile. This is Bob the Junk Pile Archtop. It has a piezo pickup. It's got 2 input jacks and whatever. But these bodies, these thick bodies, they feed back. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I think this is destined to be a cult classic because some of the ones that I've done about intro to Archtop guitars and Econo guitars have performed pretty well over the years. Now, problem with big, thick Archtops is they feed back. So now you're starting to see me doing thinner body, semi-hollow bodies, but it's the same stuff. You've got my stuff on it. These are great pickups. So I don't spare parts and pieces. And sometimes I'll just get a kit body and a neck. And I want to say hi to my friends at Guitar Kit World. If you go to their site, you might see some of my work. And what I tell people, if you're going to do that, don't buy a kit and then try to fool somebody into thinking it's a Gibson. It's not a Gibson. Gibsons aren't even Gibsons anymore. We're going to get a little history of Gibsons. I got some cool guitars to show you tonight, but this stuff is built for artists on the road, and they're highly modified. Isn't it nice to have that Ring camera in the background? I guess. So anyway, we've got that. But that's kind of what I do. So why did I film? I need to jump up here and make sure that these things don't fall over. So I got a message the other day, and I've got a message like this one probably 3 or 4 times in the time I've been doing this. By the way, if you come on and you're asking a question or something, especially on YouTube, I will take breaks here and there and get into those questions. But you know me, I get all over the map really fast. So the reason I filmed this today is because every once in a while, I will get somebody that sends me a message and they say, I bought this Archtop. It's in good shape and I got it for a decent price. So let's translate what that means to me. We are going to talk about people who flip guitars, people who go out and think they're really slick and go to estate sales and try to find that one magical guitar and then make a bunch of money. Then we're going to talk about people that get guitars for a reasonable price and then actually work. You know, everybody talks about work-life balance now. Well, work-life balance, the most important part of that is you actually do work before you expect time off. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But the person will say, I got this guitar. I want this, this, and this, and this on the guitar. And I've already bought the parts, and I want you to do the work. And how much is it going to cost? And so I look at all that and I think, okay, in today's world, I want you to think about how many millions and millions, some high volume brand name producers put out 100, 200,000 guitars, acoustic guitars, 700, 800 a day. You've got all kinds of people who have built electric guitars forever. 1 pickup, 2 pickups, 3 pickups, any configuration. And the way the market is on used guitars right now, especially, you can buy a lot of guitar for $500. And in fact, Brad, the guitarologist, look at his channel. I'll try to give you a link below. Speaking of link below, I built a couple coffee can guitars. One of them went to Tim Lohman. His band was called Low Volts. He played at Tammy's memorial service when she passed away. He recently, unfortunately, passed away. And now has a wife and a small child left behind. And I'm going to give you a link below. Guys, get on that link. If you got $1, whatever you got, please contribute to that memorial fund. He came in and played some of Tammy's favorite songs. In fact, Tammy is the one that found him. She was supposed to use her little computer to talk. Instead, she would find music and then bring it to me, and then I would build instruments, and that's how all this started. In fact, Tim Lohman is the one that did this logo. Anyway, so go down, have a look. But I will try to give you a couple links below to people. And Brad the Guitarologist wants, you really need to go take a look at him. Excuse me, there's something tapping really loud in the background, and it's messing with my sounds like somebody typing on a computer or something. But who's somebody's popping in here? Okay, good. Again, I'll stop along the way. If you have a question you want to ask me, I'll stop along the way, but we'll get back on track here. So the person says, hey, I got this guitar, I got it cheap. I want this, I want this, I want basically the fretboard replaced, fret job, this, and this. And I'm looking at this and I'm adding things up and going, okay, it's going to cost you at least $250 to ship an Archtop to LA from over here. And then that means you ship it to me, I ship it back. So you're going to have $250, maybe $300 into just getting it to me and getting it back. And I'm going to talk a little bit about values of some of the stuff you see. And in order for this to be what you want it to be, you got to kind of share with me, what are you trying to do here? Is this an instrument that you want to pull out in the middle of your show and do some songs with a weird instrument that everybody thinks is really cool? Makes it look like you can play anything. There's durability, there's what do you want, there's how you're going to treat it, etc. So there's a lot going on. We'll talk about that. But let's talk about first what an Archtop is and why they're so popular. You're going to see me going in and out of the screen, but this is a violin. It has an arched top and an arched bottom. Typically, by the way, this is about an 1850 knockoff violin from Mittenwald, Germany, that has a tone bar in it. This is really important in Archtops, especially if you're doing electronics. They tend to be cracked and all this kind of thing. But the whole idea here is that this body is thin, it's carved, and it resonates because they didn't have pickups in Mittenwald, Germany in 1850. There were literally millions of those produced. But you also had orchestral instruments like this cello that was made in 1950 in Mittenwald, Germany. It's a good, a little bit above a student instrument. And you saw me do a couple episodes on cellos, and there's one that I'm working on right now that was built sometime between 1750 and 1720. Flip that over. But this is the impetus for an Archtop guitar. Now, what happened was there were people playing classical flat top guitars as we know it, okay? And then, but those tended to be, I got my notes here, those tended to be, they had an arch top. This is a 1915, this is a 1915 Gibson mandolin. You've seen this in the picture of Tam doing this. This come to me all tore up. 1915 Gibson. Now, I want you to notice the body shape. At the same time, this is a 1918 guitar. This is a Gibson L4. It has an oval sound hole, but it has an arched top and an arched bottom. Principle is exactly the same as a cello or a violin. You're going to see me do some major structural work on this one. But notice the sound hole, okay? Notice the sound hole pattern, same thing, okay? Gibson 1915, 1920-ish type stuff. At some point, about 1923, a guy named Lloyd Lohr came into Gibson and said, listen, I think we need to put those F-holes on the guitar and not so much the oval hole, because for some reason, this looks cool. And in fact, somebody might think that you have more culture. Does it look like I have more culture holding this? Right. So at the end of it, they decided to go away from the oval hole on the Archtop and do this. And so suddenly nobody wanted those old guitars. So you'll see some of the blues players like Robert Johnson, and the only picture of him that there is has one of these oval holed Archtops. So Gibson started making L4, L5, and you saw these Archtops going on. Now, everybody wants Gibson Archtops from that era, the 30s, the 20s, mid-20s, 30s, on up into the 50s and things. And if you can't afford a Gibson, an original, you want to look for Cromwell, you want to look for Kalamazoo, you want to look for Wards, because Gibson made some of those brands at the end of the Depression because there wasn't money to buy a bunch of Archtops. So this is a Kalamazoo from 1938. And it is literally a Gibson Archtop. Now, these guitars, if you have them, you don't want to string them up and put them in a case in a closet to dry out under full string tension, because this one has a nice action and whatever. But here's where the Econo Archtops came from, guys. People wanted a Gibson guitar. I don't need these falling over. People wanted a Gibson Archtop guitar because they were cool, and that's what people wanted. But not everybody could afford one. So what would happen is you had companies. You've seen me do, while I'm giving you links, go up to the link up here and find History and Evolution of the Archtop Guitar by Ken Parker, by the way, who passed away not too long ago. I saw him at the National Archtop Convention in Arvada, Colorado, cultural capital of the world, a fall or two ago, and I'm glad I got to hear him. But he explains the sonics of having the oval holed Archtop versus the F-hole Archtop, et cetera, et cetera. But you started seeing people taking the Gibson guitars, putting them on a piece of paper, tracing them, and literally building knockoffs. So everybody has built knockoffs from day one, going back to these violins and cellos and everything. You had people, you'll find people that find violins at a yard sale, and they'll have a Stradivarian, or they think they got $1 million, but what the label translates to is, this is a copy of a Stradivarius built in Mittenwald, Germany, in the style of a Stradivari or Guarneri or Armati, Guarneri. So people started building knockoffs. You saw me do one that was a 1933 Archcraft. Link up there. And you've seen me do a lot of Archtops on this channel. So people have one thing in common that have Archtops. Truth be told, at the end of the day, they want a Gibson Archtop. These other ones are nice, Harmonies, Ks, some other stuff I'll talk about here, but people wanted an Archtop, and they wanted to be Gibson. So no matter how well-intended your parents were on Christmas morning, no matter how much the guy playing in the little band down at the beer joint. While we're there, I'm going to tell you this. Hey, Ryan, in the old days, you had dance bands, you had orchestras, you had all that going on. And then suddenly the Archtops were built so you could hear them project better. When electric guitars came along, then they would be in the band. And then the next thing you know, I would argue that the electric guitar is kind of what took a lot of the orchestras out of business. So you ended up, instead, you had a guitar and a bass and some drums and some stuff like that. But those used to be positions that people would hold at dance halls and things. And it's kind of like now that the streaming services have took over. And in fact, I can take some pictures of one of these guitars, give it a theme, sit here and move around a little bit, and AI will make a song like I'm some kind of musician. So I think music and musicians as we know it, anyway, let's get away from that. It's just, let's just say it's not good. So I think that the downfall of the Archtop guitar actually came with amplification, because every time that you plug in an Archtop and you have it'll start to vibrate, and that's why the Archtops got thinner. So what are you likely to find when you get out in the street and you're looking at Archtop guitars that you're running across? Well, you're going to see harmonies, you're going to see Ks. Those tend to be the higher end stuff that those companies actually built in their factories, and they were jobbers, so they would actually come along and put people's names on things like True Tone, which was Western Auto, Sears, which was Silver Tone, Ward's Airline. And I think that I can show you a couple of those now. Before I do that, I want you to think about a little bit about the nature of the business if you're collecting these things and doing things. Remember, these things are going to become available to you as they do. If you get on the internet and say, hey, I am looking for a 1957 Silver Tone, a model, this or this or this, somebody's going to have one, and they're going to approach you and they're going to say, I'm going to have one. I'm in East Jesus, Kentucky, cultural capital of the world. You're in Moscow, Idaho, cultural capital of the world. And I'm going to ship this to you. And here's some pictures and blah, blah. And you get there and you find out the back of it is loose, which makes the neck do this and all that kind of thing. Or you can do a couple of searches on different places. I'm going to talk to you in a minute. I'm trying to follow notes here. But let's talk about what your motivation is. Are you a flipper? Remember that show Flipper? Which means you are out prowling around. You stop by a yard sale. You see an Archtop over there. If it says Cromwell on it, you get all excited. But of course, you can't let me know that. The widow is still crying over the husband that she never really appreciated until he's gone. Did I say that? Anyway. So you go over there and you're, you know, how much is this hat? Well, what if I buy 3 of them? And then you casually move into that old, what is that, a guitar? How much is that? So you're playing that game and you buy it and you walk out and you get in your car and you're like, yes, yes, I just got a $500 guitar for $50. So you sell it. And then I guess you feel good about that. I'm not sure. Good for you, bad for the widow, right? Then you have people who actually do some work with the guitar because they look at it. Do I have one around here I want to show you yet? Maybe not. but the guitar's in really, really rough shape. It was an Econo Archtop, like, you know, the $19 model, the $21 model. It certainly wasn't the $60 model. It's got cracks in it. The neck needs to be reset. The tuner's buttons are cracked. Everything's missing. And maybe you gave 50 bucks for it, 75 bucks for it. And then you go ahead and fix the cracks, do whatever you do, put different stuff on it. Guys, when you mess with the finish on a guitar, it's immediately worth half of what it was. When you take the finish off of a guitar, you want to remember that the finish protects the wood from drying out, dehydrating. So when you strip everything off and leave it sit there and it cracks and all that kind of stuff. But if you're a flipper, you're looking at, I'm going to get this at a certain price. It's a commodity that I know how to market, and I'm going to get more money than I got. If you are somebody that works on the guitar, the best thing to do is figure out what the guitar could be worth if it were just plain in original condition, didn't need a neck reset, had period correct tuners, had a neck angle and an action that was playable. What is that guitar worth? Well, the best way to figure that out is get on a site like Reverb. Don't get misled down the path of, well, this is an $800 guitar, and you're looking at a listing that's been there for 6 months. Look at the sold stuff. That's going to give you a good idea. Look at the rating of the seller that sold it. Is it low? Look at the comments. Was the stuff returned because it was misrepresented anyway? Look at what the guitar would be worth. It was in fair condition, straight out of wherever you got it, and you were to sell it. Could you get your money back or make a little bit more money? Then compare the level of work it's going to need to take a guitar that's in less shape than fair, and then move that along and put the work into it. So you're going to take the amount of money you paid for the guitar. You're going to take the parts, and you're going to take and keep track of your labor. And you're going to figure out that the money you make on the guitar is not from flipping it or tricking people. It's actually from being able to reset necks and do what you do, and then represent it to somebody. What do you want it for? I want it for the cabin. I want to put a guitar in the cabin. I want one at home when the family gets together on holidays. I want to play it in the band that we do a couple gigs a year. Find out what it is, and then set your pricing right. You are competing with people who build. There's a flat top guitar builder, acoustic guitar builder in California that's doing 800 instruments a day. Are you going to be able to compete with their price, their product, and their quality when you're starting off with something that might be 70 years old? Again, I tell people, especially the young people, everything's work-life balance. I need work-life balance. Well, I think guitars and fixing guitars and having that hobby and staying out of the beer joint is a good thing. And doing this kind of stuff and getting guitars resurrected in people's hands is a good thing. But work-life balance, people, believe me, begins with work. You actually have to do some work. Mommy and daddy aren't going to pay your cell bill until you're 50 years old. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. So I want to talk about a couple of classifications. So when I look at a guitar, I'm asking myself, what can I do with this guitar? So I have a classification, and I have a playlist that's up there called Too Good to Junk Pile, meaning I'm going to do some work on it. I'm going to fix some cracks, but I am not going to put license plates and different pickups and punch holes in the top and all this. By the way, when people ask me to do pickups, I want to show you something here. Again, if everything falls to the floor, we have a problem. Okay, this guitar, see that? Guys, watch it when you're using this tape, because after a while, it will take finish off. Okay, but this was a Marwin guitar made by Harmony. It was sold by Tonk Brothers, T-O-N-K, in the Northeast United States, in their stores. And it has a terrible crack here that's affected the arch. Can you see all that? And this is a great guitar if I want to go through. The back is off of it because the neck was dried out, and I took the neck off. You can tell here that sometimes when you steam the neck, you're going to have a lot of work to do to bring that finish back. But this guitar is tore up. So on the inside, these are called tone bars here. Same thing you saw on the violin, and they follow the angle of the neck. So let's say I want to put Gibson 57 style pickups in this thing. First thing I need to think about is they are going to make this guitar buzz. And in order to set them down into the body here, I am going to actually have to cut the tone bars, which is going to want to make the guitar collapse. And it is already flattening out where the bridge was. So you've seen me do an episode about building, I called it an overpass structure here, that straddles these in the area of the bridge, reinforces this. I'll go through, repair any of the kerfing that holds the back on. They actually used linen as a means of stopping plywood, which this is, it's not carved, from running up and down and cracking, but it didn't work. So I may just take something, pop this together, actually use epoxy that you can see through. I may accent the fact that this is all busted up, reinforce this, beef this up. And this is a good dive bar guitar that somebody pulls out, looks terrible, and they play it and it's like, oh wow, that thing is junky, but it sounds great. So what does it cost to do one of these? Well, I've already got it apart. I've gotten good at taking necks off. So if this is something that you want to hang in the man cave, this is a good one to junk pile up. I got people on the Instagram channel. Hey guys, I'll get to, if you got, I'm also running live on the YouTube channel right now. So if there's people asking questions or something there, I will try to get in and answer those at the end here. But again, Marwin, made by Harmony. I got a couple of these. This is something you can junk pile up all day long. Let's get this out of the way. Now, on the other side of the coin, let's get back into some of these instruments. This is a Harmony guitar. It's a big body Archtop. It's got some pretty serious issues. It strings up and plays, but if you look right here, this was made out of, this is a carved top. It's a carved spruce top, and it is cracked. I can repair this by taking cello clamps that hook into the side over here, or even into the F holes, and I can pull this back together. And this is a good guitar. This is a Sherwin standard. It's got an awesome top. The tuners are good. The back is really nice. It's got the original parts. Tailpiece, period correct bridge. The bridge has the thumb wheels on. If you see a bridge without thumb wheels, that means the action is already low. But by the time I get done with this, this is going to be a great guitar. I don't take these kinds of guitars and put license plates or Sparky, electricity will kill you kids, plaques on them. I think that I exceeded the time on the Instagram channel, whatever. They'll catch up. Welcome back, Instagram. Maybe not. But this is the kind of guitar, especially when it's got ornate work here. If it's got a truss rod, if it's got all the original stuff, you really don't want to mess this one up. So this is a good one. Let's take another look up here. There were some people who were trying to imitate other kinds of guitars by other manufacturers. This one is mahogany. It is a Harmony Patrician. It was made in 1940. The way I know it was made in 1940, by the way, is carved top, mahogany, everything. Is somebody incorporated in 1940 decided they were going to put binding only on the top and not the bottom. This guitar in this kind of shape is not something you want to put stuff on. You want to make sure the original parts are here. If you find this, again, the thumb wheels are here. The action is great. They made this guitar, Harmony made the Patrician into the 1960s. And sometimes you will see them and they will be painted. Let's do that. They will be painted. Somebody will put a coat of paint on them. And typically when that happens, it's because they used a piece of spruce that had a branch whorl or something that looked imperfect. So people will get these and they will try to work them over. Hang on here. Here it is here. Here's a Harmony Patrician from the 60s. It has a truss rod, which is good. Has the original tuners. One of them is bent a little bit. There's a way to do that. The logo looks great. The same kind of body, except they're spruce. But you can see that somebody didn't like this, and they actually painted this with white spray paint. So, this one has a cool herringbone binding or tortoise binding, top and bottom. This is a good guitar. I have all the parts for it right here. So again, this goes into the category too good to junk pile. Let's look at a couple guitars I think you want to watch out for. If you find one that was made by the United States Guitar Company, often with the brand name US Strad, meaning Stradivarius. Okay. This is a very chunky guitar, heavily built, has all of its original parts. This was actually made by a company who had 4 partners, one of them being Frank Forcillo. Their factory was in New Jersey. They made Orpheum guitars, some of those guitars you saw in the early 60s that were archtops without F-holes, like the studios the Beatles played. But Frank Forcillo decided when he was helping John D'Angelico in his shop in the 30s that he was better off making guitars for the masses in their factory in New Jersey. So look for this one. This is a good guitar. I would not punch holes in this. I would not put a pickup in it. Let's take a look at a couple of guitars that look to be pretty fancy, but in the end, they're not that great of guitars. You know this one to be the Silvertone Kentucky Blue. It was brought out in the 50s, 55 to 62. They were painting cars, the Buicks, the Oldsmobiles, the two-tone cars that were like boats. This guitar is so cheaply built, but it looks really cool. And once you have one, they're like the Holy Grail. You go look for one, you finally find one. I've had several. I'll keep this one, but when you start taking a look at putting pickups on, by the way, Bob Log III made these pretty popular. Do not be getting into $800 for one of these, regardless of how the action is. Again, I've had a few of these. Let's hang this one back up. Silvertone, made for Sears by one of your main manufacturers. This here is a K, big body K, big 17-inch lower bout, ornate headstock. When you find these and you get these tight, these big body pickups, this one is funny. It had a microphone jack on it, so it's 40s, late 30s, early 40s. I've had to do a lot of work to it, a lot of cracks. I started French polishing it. That's why it looks so fancy. Somebody had to put a pickup. So I'm going to use a surface mount pickup like one of those Kent Armstrongs. Hey, guys. Somebody's in the chat on YouTube. If you got questions, let me know. This will be posted after I get off here. But this guitar, in great condition, you're going to find out these really big, thick, heavy body guitars can get you $1,000, but this one is kind of busted up. It had binding issues. I've done binding jobs and all this. I had to reset the neck. There's new frets on it. This is a guitar that somebody that runs dive bars and does trash Delta blues would love this guitar. But if you want to run across one of these, or a Harmony Monterey that's this size, you really, really, by the way, Milo Sledge is out there with one of my Harmony Montereys that's in really good shape. He also has a 1956 Silvertone Aristocrat that's awesome. Good guitar. Don't start cutting these up. These might be worth your money if you can get them at the right price. So let's talk about what the guitar tells you it is. If you have a guitar that has a V-neck, a pronounced V-neck, this stuff is like a kind of like an I-beam configuration. You see how it comes there? If you see tree limbs that are very long, sometimes the limbs, instead of being round, it'll start to flatten out. They call that an I-beam. These guitars, you want to remember, had no truss rods. This here is from the late 40s. It has a spruce top. Look at the maple here. This is good, but it's pretty beat up. This is something that I can get, and I can put a surface mount pickup on it. I could also keep it as an acoustic, but the 1930s and into 40s, you're going to see this configuration of neck. I have a few of these here that I'm going to show you. I like this one. This is another Marwin. We've heard about that before. It was, excuse me. A Marwin is was made by Harmony, and it has a neck like this, so it's late 30s, early 40s. It has the original pick guard. It has the original bridge. The finish is kind of bad. This one you would not be able to put a surface mount pickup on, and you can get pickups But this would be one that you might want to take the neck off of if the action isn't that good to begin with, which it's not. You could put another fretboard on it. You could put taller frets. In pulling off the neck, you can tilt it forward a little bit and get this up where you could get one of those surface mount or pick guard mount pickups on it. The back of it's tore up. So this is an ideal candidate to junk pile. But remember, these necks have no truss rods. Someone will say, well, if you got the neck off, you're going to take the fingerboard off, you can cut a truss rod channel in here. Always remember that some of these, they would put a piece of metal in here and call it a steel reinforced neck. You don't want to hit that with your router. What we got here. This is a Harmony H983 from 1942. Same thing. Neck like this, telltale sign here. This one has killer painted binding. It's got the original pick guard. It's in good shape. The action isn't that bad. It's got the original bridge. By the way, if you've got the original bridge and you're looking at it and you can see gaps underneath here and there, you're going to get cracks there. There don't seem to be any loose braces or whatever. Modernize the tuners. This is a player for the cabin or some acoustic thing. Now, look at this thing. This is a Rex made by Harmony. It is a rack. It's awesome painted on. Whatever this is supposed to be. The back is coming off, especially back here. When the back is coming off, it lets everything tilt this way. The extremely high action might be a result of that. Again, this is late 30s, early 40s. Now I'm going to show you a guitar that they probably made hundreds of thousands of. It is a Harmony 1213, 1214, and 1215. This is a 1215. You can tell because it has a couple of these painted on. It's got a good heavy arch. It's built good. I have the original bridge, painted binding, starting to crack here and there. This is one that has a fingerboard extension that gets it up off the deck. This will take one of those flat mounted. You can also put a lace pickup on it. But sometimes you can find those pickups. Gretsch makes them. Sometimes they have poles running through them that drop down through here, which would cause you to drill a hole. But if everything's right, you can take a chisel and a 1/4 inch, make a 1/4 inch cut, and you will have the pickup has mounts on the side that you actually screw into here, and you can drill 1 hole, 2 holes here. And what's funny about this is George Mitchell went down to North Mississippi in 1967, and George Calicut on the front cover of George's book is playing this guitar, not this guitar, but one like it. These show up fairly frequently. They're fairly heavy built, meaning they're pretty durable. But at any given time, I have 1, 2, 3 of this guitar. So when somebody calls me up and says, hey, what do you got that's going to be mid-range that I can get a flat mount pickup on? What are we talking about? I got that. And every once in a while you run across something like this. There were Japanese builders in the 60s that were doing pretty good guitars, and Decca Records decided, well, if they're buying our 45s and listening to the jukebox, maybe we can have somebody build a guitar and write our name on the headstock. Guys, these guitars, if you can find one, they're built really well. They're really light. They're built really well, and they sound okay. So again, this is another one I would tell somebody I got one. It doesn't have any cracks. It does have the fingerboard extension right here is up a little bit. I could put a flat mount on it, and it's not so valuable that I would be ruining anything. But this is a nice guitar made in Japan in the 1960s, I think, starting in 1965. And then, of course, let's pull this one out. If I can get it out, there's going to be a few guitars that you're going to run across. They're going to hold their value pretty good, especially if they have the original pickup on it. This is a Harmony Hollywood, and it has its original pickup. It has the cupcake knobs on it, and this thing will string up and play. There's a couple places here and there. This is painted on binding, so it's, you know, nothing bad. The neck angle is good. It has a neck extension, and it's got a silver foil pickup on it. This thing sounds good. I can get $500 for this just the way it is any day of the week. Watch for this one. Bear with me. Now, there's going to be a couple other guitars that if you see them, pay attention. This is a Harmony Brilliant. It has a truss rod. Somebody stripped the pancake pickups off it. It's got a single cutaway. This was supposed to be a knockoff of a Gibson 400. Anything that you see that has a single cutaway, big wide body, pay attention to it. The tuners are great. The neck is straight. It's got a nice fingerboard extension, and there is a ton of room. The action is great. The thumb wheels are here. The original bridge is very tall. This is something we can put modern electronics in. And again, these big body, single cutaway pickups, you're starting to see the bodies on this stuff. If everything is together, you're starting to see these for $1,000 here and there. When it comes to the stuff that everybody has, let's take a look here. The airline Archtops, mid-range quality, dime a dozen, built for Montgomery Wards, steel reinforced neck, Poussin tuners. This one, everything was good enough, plenty of room. Bob Log III has actually played this in concert, and if you look close, his signature is there. This is the first Archtop that I ever electrified. Again, those pickups, they have a piezo that's mounted under the bridge, so it'll pick up the tap and the run and the slide up and down like Fred McDowell in Bulldog Blues, and then it's got this foil pickup on it. Of course, the ones branded silver tone, like this one. What do we got here? By the way, when you get guitars, this one has an N2. You'll see N2, N3, N4. Those are kind of like stamps that tell you this body goes here. The model number on this one is not N2. It's actually 6886. Made for Sears. This one has a good neck angle. The neck extension is really high. This one is ready to have a pickup setup in it. It's pretty tough and durable, no body cracks. Everything is good. It's got binding. It's got a steel reinforced neck, but no truss rod. Guys, play these things. Learn open D so you're not cranking them up to standard tuning and then wondering why you leave it in the case in the car where it's 95 degrees and the hide glue cuts loose. And then when it cools off at night, wherever the neck is relaxed to, then all of a sudden your action is this high and you don't know why. That's why. Also, when the body starts coming loose here, everything pivots. This slides one way, the neck comes up. I've done a lot of videos about how to use a yardstick and get that all right back to where it needs to be. What else we got here? Same guitar, exactly. Branded K. Same binding. Same neck extension. Same plenty of room for a pickup. Same steel reinforced neck. These are the guitars that are okay to put a neck conversion in because nobody's looking for this just to use for an acoustic, but it's a way to get a hot rod instrument that sounds pretty good. Remember that they will vibrate and feedback really bad. Some people like that. Now I want to show you something pretty cool. This is an Aristone that come out of Europe. I couldn't believe what I was looking at when it came in. The Aristone. Awesome body. Original pick guard. Everything is good. Great binding. No cracks. But when it got shipped, this part was up a little bit in the case. Something slammed. The neck on this thing is cracked all the way here and here. I'm going to be able to do some work on it. Somebody will like it. The neck extension is up high. This is a perfect guitar to put a pick guard mount pickup on, hide the wires, run everything down here, beef this up, and then put your volume and tone controls here. There's already a hole for a strap button, so you could end up using a pin end jack, and you would simply mount your grounding wire to the tailpiece. So this is a good one that you could kind of use as a jazz box if you like. Just too bad that that is cracked like that. Okay, guys, we've been going on for a while. I have basically shown you about 25 Archtop guitars. And somebody asked me at one point, what do you have available? How many Archtops do you have? Well, you're seeing some of them. You're not seeing all of them. But that answers the question. So let's kind of take a look at really what this is all about. When you get this many guitars, you've got a lot of money into it, kind of. You've got a lot of parts. You've got to plan what you're going to do. I've given you some episodes about how to take a canvas bag, pull the parts off, put a magnet in the right container, keep everything in order, label what it is, figure out what you're going to do, know what you got in your parts, know what you got in your costs, keep track of your labor costs. Because sometimes you'll find out that some of these guitars you're buying, you will never get your money out of them. The only way to get your money out of them is to build them up where an artist is going to play them, and then you've got that whole market to build. And there's a lot of people out there waiting for that business. How do you get these? Well, first off, you can go into pawn shops. Now, here's a pawn shop. The pawn shop guys know what they can sell something for without having to sit on it a really long time. So if you're going to sell guitars to pawn shops, it's just best to say, hey, look, I got too many guitars. I got 3 or 4 instruments that somebody would find amusing that would play at home. It's a pretty good Archtop. I just showed you 10 of them that could be made available in a weekend by doing the right things to it that don't require heavy structural stuff. Leave some meat on the bone for those guys. People are going to come in. They're going to be looking for something to get a good deal, and take the money. Again, know what you got into them, and then you can let them go. On the other side of the coin, let the guy know, hey, I'm going to buy that. Give it to me for what it is. Don't beat them up too bad, because once they see you and know that you're out for yourself and don't understand that they need to make money, yeah, they don't want to see you no more. Yard sales are very hit and miss. Remember, the time you're putting into looking for things is time that, is an investment. eBay, that is my least favorite place to find Archtops unless they're local. So you got to remember where you're at. If you're in Drummond, Montana, there's not going to be, by the way, Cultural Capital World and Bull Shipper Capital World. They have bulls, rodeo bulls. Remind me to tell you about Butler Brothers, Elk City, Oklahoma, and an episode that I had there with rodeo bulls that I didn't realize I had until about 6 years later when I drove by Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada, entertainment and cultural capital world, and saw it on the side of a truck and realized I could have been trampled by a rodeo bull. Anyway, wherever you're at, if you're in LA, you can actually go see. If they don't want you to come by and see it or something like that, it's always best to see it. That's the downside of eBay. If you're selling on eBay and somebody's out in the garage and all this and getting all crazy looking at your stuff and making purchases, and then mommy figures out, oh, what is that? Why'd you buy that? And then they find some lame excuse to send it back to you. Remember, Archtops can cost $125 to ship one way. You don't want $250 into a sale plus a refund going on a guitar that you paid $150 for and put 300 of your own money in. Marketplace on Facebook is a good place. Again, you can set the parameters of how far away you'll go, all of that. Good. You can see the stuff. You can say, hey. And I think some people, especially in my area, have seen some of these videos that I've made that talk about putting $800 into a $400 guitar. There's a lot of them out there. Remember, they made hundreds of thousands of them. Christmas artists, all those kinds of things. So they're around. Guitar shops are a great place. I have one that knows what I'm looking for. Sometimes I will buy 2 or 3 guitars in a package. I'll buy an Archtop and someone will say, well, I got this solid body guitar, whatever. I end up with guitars that I don't really need. Guitar shops like solid body guitars. They like vintage 60s solid body guitars, the parts that go with them, all that kind of thing. So get a good deal going on. If you're going traveling and you're looking for, that these bridges on these Archtops are hard to find. You can go into a guitar store that does repair in some of these older cities and say, hey, I'm looking for some parts. You got that box of bridges in the back or something like that. Good place to get parts. People trade in instruments at guitar shops. And if they know you're looking for a certain thing and they say, you know what, I know a guy that will use this guitar. I'll give you, X amount of trade in on these other guitar that you want to buy. So those are good places to get the stuff. So back to the guy that got a hold of me. I got this guitar really cheap. Translation to me, that means I can put some money into it. So it's not, I don't expect you to do the work for free. I want it to be a certain way. Well, how that's displayed is I got the parts, I bought the parts, and I am going to get the parts to you. That means I have high expectations of what this is, what the outcome is, what I want it to be. And the minute I tell this person, well, first off, the first thing you're going to have to do is realize, however you got the parts, however, whatever you're doing, if you have a guitar that is built with the parts you want, the electronics, all that, is it likely to be a mid-century from the last century Archtop? Probably not. Is it going to feed back? Probably. Do I know what's inside? Can I cut a Gibson 57 pickups in and ruin the tone bars and all this? There's all kinds of things you learn the hard way doing this. You basically have to encourage the person to say, hey, before you spend $125 to ship it to me, to put in parts that are going to give you nothing but a feedback monster, why don't you tell me why there's not a luthier out there who do the work for it for you? Or better yet, why don't you watch my channel? Because I got 500 episodes out here to tell you just about anything that you could do with one of these guitars. Now, at the end of the day, I have a day job. I have a great day job. I serve on the school board. I work for a municipality here in Southern California. I got some other stuff going on. But what I have is I've amassed a collection of stuff that's going to allow me to buy the stuff when I needed it, when I could get it. Of course, I didn't need it. Nobody needs 25 Archtops all at once that I'm admittedly telling you that I have no interest in keeping. I've shown you some. I do some work on other stuff that's pricey, antiquarian instruments. I don't play violin, I don't play cello, but I seem to be the one that can fix the instruments that nobody else wants to deal with, either because they're too tore up, their value's gone, or I just like looking at the fact that I start off with some cigar boxes and have worked on enough of these junky Archtops to get good enough where somebody might give me their 1918 Gibson L4 that's probably worth $5,000 and say, hey, Ken, can you fix the cracks? Can you stabilize this instrument? Can you do something with the finish to clean it up and make it look nice without diminishing its value? So I like this hobby. Guys, make sure that what you're paying, you don't put $800 into a $400 guitar. So if you're seeing this later and you want to give me some questions, do that and I will answer them. I've got a couple more cello episodes to go to. And then what you're going to end up seeing is I have a couple solid bodies that I've been working on, and then you get a complete start to finish on this one. So I got a lot of episodes in the queue, and they're about a lot of different guitars. So again, guys, please go to the link below. Tim Lohman was a great guy. You're going to love his music. In fact, I think I'll give you a link up there right now. Tammy found him on her computer, brought him to me. The song she brought me was called Granny's Gold Teeth. That's interesting. It turns out that his great-grandfather was a traveling gospel singer, ended up being framed for murder, was on death row in Texas. People from a seminary came out and said, no, he couldn't have been there. He couldn't have done this. He wrote a book called Up from the Depths, My Escape from the Electric Chair. Tim is one of those people that always had time for my daughter, Tammy. I'm going to give you a link to my channel, my YouTube channel called CDLS Dads. That's Cornelia DeLange Syndrome Dads. Guitars gave Tammy a big voice in this world. And if you end up with one of these guitars that had her signature on it, you have something that's not only unique, but there's a lot of good work that went into it by a lot of good artists. See if you can give Tim, his wife Danny, and their daughter Marlo a little bit of grace by making sure that they're going to have enough money to get through this and live on. And sadness is one thing, but mixing it with just impossibilities of life is another. So, hey guys, if you haven't subscribed or give me a like, do that. I'll see you soon. And thanks for being here.